Vayedaber Adonai el Moshe lemor. Adonai spoke to Moses, saying, Daber b'nei Yisrael v'yikchu li truma me'et kol ish asher yidvenu libo tikchu et trumati. Translated here, tell the Israelite people to bring me gifts. Modern Hebrew, biblical Hebrew. Somebody tell me, how do you say the word to bring? Lehavi. What word was used here? Lakachat, right, to take. This bothered the rabbis. By the way, you can look at many different translations and see that everybody sort of has a different reading of this take, bring. I was talking with Mark Brettler downstairs, who, by the way, is giving a shiur on this week's Torah portion after Kiddush. So I encourage you. It's a wonderful opportunity to learn with Mark Brettler. I'm a professor of Jewish studies here at Duke. And he said maybe procure is the right way to translate this. Rashi says, V'yikchu li lishmi, for my sake. A couple of commentators try to explain maybe what Rashi means by that. The Siftei Chachamim points out that it's very strange to say, for God to say, take for me, because everything in the world is God's. Right? We say tomorrow morning in the Psalm for Sunday, La Adonai ha'aretz u'meloav tevel v'yoshveva. Everything in the world is God's. And so what does it mean to say, take for me? God doesn't need anything, says Sefer HaZikaron, one of the super commentaries on Rashi. God doesn't need anything. And so take for me, take from what is mine for me. Right? And what does it mean to say, for my sake, not because God is in need of things, but for my sake, perhaps how the taking will be good for you. The Toldot Yitzchak has a beautiful reading of this. Toldot Yitzchak was the uncle of Rabbi Yosef Karo. And he points out that the word for betrothal in the rabbinic tradition is kicha, is this taking. And he says that this gift that God is asking us to take is the object of betrothal, like the ring in a Jewish wedding ceremony. And that there be this moment of intimacy between God and the Jewish people through this truma, through this gift that the people will bring. It's a beautiful vision of God, that God desires a relationship with us. There is a last commentary that I want to focus on. It is the Hakata v'Hakabbalah, Rabbi Mecklenburg, 1765 to 1865, who makes the following point. He bases it on an example from the Talmud. So, as I mentioned before, the betrothal is affected in the Jewish wedding ceremony when the groom gives to the bride an object of value and the bride willingly accepts the object of value. In traditional Jewish weddings, it is the groom who gives and the bride who receives. Both of them have to do that as an act of free will. There's an example in the Talmud that says that if there is a very powerful man, very important, not powerful, but very important, someone of great prestige, we can imagine who that might be, someone of great prestige. And a woman, in this moment, gives an object of value, a ring, to this man of great prestige, and the man receives it, then, according to the Talmud, Kiddushin Tofsin, which means that the betrothal actually is affected. Even though it was the woman who did the giving and not the man, because in this case, the act of this important person receiving is giving of something. Let me say that again. The act of his receiving something is actually understood as a gift. I'll give you a more common example. My teacher, Dr. Walter Hertzberg from the Jewish Theological Seminary, with whom I learned these sources this week, tells a story of being invited to a Shabbos dinner. And none of the guests knew ahead of time, but at the Shabbos dinner, Senator Joe Lieberman was there. And one of the things that was very evident is that the hosts, even though they were doing the giving, the hosts were preparing the food and putting things out and taking care of everyone there, including Senator Lieberman. It was very clear that for the hosts, this opportunity to give was really an honor that they were receiving. And Dr. Hertzberg was actually called upon to give a Dvar Torah at the table. And he said, even though I was the teacher and I was the one who was giving over these words of Torah, that act of giving was for me really receiving. It was a wonderful honor to be given. And so the Ketav HaKabbalah says that at this moment when God says, take for me, that the reason that we use this word take is because the roles are actually reversed. This is our Shabbat to honor the Chevra Kadisha. And I say this with no exaggeration. To be able to honor the work of the Chevra Kadisha, and he squirms as I say this each and every year, to be able to honor David Clapper in his role as the head of the Chevra Kadisha, is not something that we are giving. It's a gift that we receive. To be able to say and give a little bit of kavod to the compassionate voice which is on the other end of the phone at life's most difficult moments. To be able to bring forward for aliyot people who sit through the middle of the night, who wash and prepare bodies, who bear our loved ones to their final resting places, is not something that we give, it's something that we receive, and for which we are ever grateful. Shabbat Shalom.